All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Week number 8 in the NFL, starting it off with Thursday night football. We got the Chargers taking on the Vikings. In this video, I'm going to dive into this game. I'll break it down. I'll give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, guys, make sure to keep an eye down on the pinned comment of this video. That's where you'll find all of my final plays, so I'm actually rolling with myself. If that does interest you, it's absolutely free down in the pinned comment. All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. I tell you guys I'm a dummy all the time. They don't suck. They've just been sucking. Get them down to -3 for more juice than Jose Canseco in his prime. Tell me you're new without telling me you're new. So don't go jumping down my throat in the comments, right? If you want to fade me, or if you do want to ride me, this still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, right? And remember, more chins, more wins. Now, before we do dive into this game, I want to talk to you guys about Sleeper. They got a couple amazing things going on over on their app right now, which you should check out by clicking the link down in the description, as well as the pinned comment. First and foremost, right now, new customers, $20 free, a $20 free entry just by signing up, no deposit needed. What an absolute no-brainer, right? They also have a free square for new users. It says mystery square, but little birdie told me it's most likely going to be a Justin Jefferson square. So go ahead and check it out, guys. Again, that link will be down below in the description, as well as the pinned comment. You get the JJ square, you get the free $20, and oh, if you do choose to deposit, which I think you should, you're gonna get your first deposit matched. Absolute no-brainer. Check it out. That link, again, will be down below in the description, as well as the pinned comment. Guys, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. As always, drop all of your favorite plays down in the comments. Absolutely love reading your insights and angles on what you guys are rolling with, but not even just for me. You're also helping out a bunch of other people looking for plays for this game. So go ahead and get those plays down in the comments. Let's jump into this one. We got the Chargers taking on the Vikings right now. Spread sitting at -3 on the Charger side of things. Total sitting at 45. Now, the Chargers are coming off of a loss to Indianapolis last week. They've now lost 3 of their last 4. And let's keep in mind, this team started 3-0. Obviously, a little bit of the injury bug. But yeah, sitting there now at 4-3 after 7 weeks, didn't really look like they were going to be in this position after the first 3 weeks of the year, right? Speaking of the injuries, Joey Alt is questionable here. We got Pipkins also on the line, questionable, and obviously the running backs, Harris and Amarian Hampton, out in this one. On the Minnesota side of things, they're coming off of a loss as well to Philadelphia. They did kind of battle back in that game. I'll give them a little bit of credit, but man, their season's just been kind of up and down, obviously with the J.J. McCarthy injury and everything like that. Not exactly sure where they shake out as of right now. Now, we said the J.J. McCarthy injury. Yes, that is one of the injuries to note here. We also have Carson Wentz listed as questionable, but all signs are pointing towards him playing. Van Ginkel is questionable. So yes, I think J.J. McCarthy will be inactive with the emergency QB designation, but for all intents and purposes, we have another Carson Wentz start on our hands. So how do we see that going, right? Let's start with Carson Wentz and what we'll probably see from this Chargers defense. Overall, we're going to get a lot of zone, right? We should see a decent amount of zone from this Chargers defense right now, playing zone at the, I want to say it was a top 10 clip in the entire league. And that's good news for Carson Wentz overall. His yards per attempt go up to 9.9 against the zone. 81% completion percentage. He's passing the ball at just 53.7% against man. So the fact that he's going to see some zone should be pretty good. His DVOA and EPA go up as well. Now, looking at Carson Wentz and his splits, the biggest thing to note is that if you blitz him, if you pressure him, you could have some trouble, right? But this isn't exactly a LA team that is crazy in the blitz or the pressure department whatsoever. Right now, 13 lowest pressure rate, 9th fewest blitzes, 15th in terms of adjusted sack percentage, middle of the pack in terms of clean pocket percentage. The one thing I will give them, and it's kind of funny that we just kind of knocked all of their pressure stats. They are right now the team that leads the league in terms of shortest amount of time to throw to quarterbacks. But overall, there's a lot more out there that would indicate that this is a Chargers team that may not fully get to Carson Wentz constantly. So I do think Carson Wentz could perform in this spot, and we do know he has the talent, right? He's been talented for years and years and years. he's just been kind of, a mixed bag, a box of chocolates in terms of whether or not he's going to perform or he's going to do something stupid or something like that, right? But again, I don't necessarily see him overly struggling too much in this spot. As far as the run game goes, now this isn't exactly the best run game that we've seen from the Vikings to start the season, right? In terms of where they are, they're ranked just 20th in rushing yards per game. They are top half of the league, ranked 14th in terms of yards per carry, but nothing special. The good news here is that we do have a Chargers defense that is allowing the ranked 28th in terms of yards per carry to opposing running backs on the season. That's 5.1. At home, they're allowing 5.6 yards per carry. Their last 3 games, dead last 5.8. This is the 3rd worst team from a DVOA perspective defending the run. So maybe there is some opportunity for this team to be able to go out there and run the ball almost finally, right? They're going up against what I would consider not exactly the best run defense. Now, we do see this Minnesota team running a ton of man schemes. And yeah, nothing really jumps off the page in terms of the Chargers against man schemes. Middle of the pack in most stats. I will say they're allowing the 4th most explosive runs, so maybe we can talk about that with Jordan Mason once we get to the player prop portion of the video. But overall, all signs lead to this Minnesota Vikings team being able to move the ball to some degree. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they're going to go up there and put up 35 points or something like that, but realistically, I'm not loving what I'm seeing in terms of the matchup here. Yes, this is still a Chargers defense that is pretty good, but I feel like they're a little bit better, against quarterbacks that are pretty bad against zone and quarterbacks that don't thrive when they're not pressured and stuff like that. So yeah, it's weird to say, but I think Carson Wentz and the offense here could actually be pretty good. Now, real quick, guys, before we do move on to the rest of the video, I want to talk to you about the NFL dashboard that we have live on GuyBostonSports.com right now. You've seen some graphics pop up on the screen. This is the NFL dashboard. Everything you need to help you make better decisions, get your information in an optimized format. Go ahead and check it out, guys. GuyBostonSports.com. You can head to the members area, click on NFL dashboard, and sign up today. We also have the NBA dashboard that has launched for the first week of the NBA season. This is free to all users. Look at how amazing this thing looks. You can even zoom in with this scroll bar right here, depending on the size of your screen. Go check it out, guys. Again, that is GuyBostonSports.com. Head to the members area. I'll also put the link down in the description as well as the pinned comment. Sign up today for that NFL dashboard. And if you want to check out the NBA dashboard, that is free as of right now. So we think that this Vikings team can move the ball. What about the Chargers team, right? Herbert should also see a lot of zone. He's coming off of a really good week last week too. I mean, interceptions aside, he threw 2 picks, but he threw for 420 yards and 3 tutties. So let's give a little credit where it's due, obviously in a losing effort against Indianapolis. But like I mentioned, he should see a decent amount of zone, which, like Carson Wentz, that's a good sign for Justin Herbert. Yards per attempt go up to 7.4 against the zone. Completion percentage, nearly 75%. It's just over 60% against man, so that's good, right? DVOA and EPA also better against this zone than man. The problem is the pressure. This is a Minnesota team, and if you aren't aware, this is a Minnesota team that will blitz like you read about. Literally the #1 blitzing team in terms of frequency so far to start the year. They're also top 10 in pressure, 2nd in adjusted sack rate, 9th best in terms of clean pocket percentage, 6th best in terms of time to pressure. Weirdly enough, 5th worst time to throw, middle of the pack in QB hit percentage, and the 2nd highest in check down rate in terms of check down passes completed. So some weird ones there, but for the most part, we can expect this Minnesota team to get to the Chargers. Why do you say that, Ev? Well, this is the Chargers offensive line, and though they've had some injuries, obviously, allowing the 2nd highest QB hit percentage, being pressured at the 4th highest rate, clean pocket the 5th worst time to pressure. So yeah, don't necessarily love the idea of Justin Herbert being able to sit in the pocket and deliver some of these deep, nice passes that he's very good at. What I will mention, he can check it down. We already said that, right? The 2nd highest check down completion rate against this Vikings team. He has a lot of good wide receivers, a really good wide receiver group. So maybe if he's getting the ball out of his hands quickly, they can move the ball down the field because, again, he does perform better against zone. It's the pressure that worries me just a little bit here. Now, In terms of the run game, I don't even know if it's fair to talk about the run game all that much because, I want to talk about it in somewhat of a negative light, but realistically, they've had the worst luck, right? Najee Harris goes down. Okay, we got the rookie Omarion Hampton. Boom, he goes down too. Now you got Haskins, Vidal. Vidal looked really, really good in that first true start. I think that was against Miami, but didn't do too much against Indianapolis. Is this Minnesota run defense tremendous? I wouldn't say that. So there might be some potential for the Chargers to actually get some sort of run game going in this one, right? And if we look at the splits in terms of what they run, most of the season, they've run a lot of outside zone. But since Hampton's been out, they've actually run a lot more man. So we wanted to look into both of these spots. And Minnesota versus the outside zone, which is what the Chargers had been running for most of the season prior to injuries, right? Well, looked like it was good news, right? Minnesota, 5th most yards per carry allowed, 6th most EPA per attempt, worst DVOA in the entire league against the outside zone run, and the 2nd worst success rate. So you're thinking, okay, that's really good news for the Chargers. But don't forget that I mentioned they've been running a lot of man scheme runs. Well, Minnesota, 8th best yard per carry against the man scheme. Middle of the pack for EPA, but 5th best DVOA, top 10 success rate. So if the Chargers continue to run the man schemes, and maybe that is what they like with Vidal and that type of thing, I do think that they'll have some issues here. If they elect to go with the outside zone, kind of what they were doing for the bulk of the season before the injuries, then we could see some success from this Chargers defense. Offense. So I do think that Justin Herbert, with the zone, as long as he's avoiding the pressure, and with the run game, I think that they'll be able to move the ball as well, just maybe a little bit more clunky than this Minnesota team. And one big thing to note here, and this honestly impacts what I'm thinking about my spread play a decent amount, is that this Chargers team, 2nd worst in the entire league right now in terms of red zone TD percentage. How often, when they're in the red zone, do they score a touchdown? 2nd worst. Minnesota is the 4th best team defensively in that category. So for me, I do think that this is going to be a close game. I don't want to act like Justin Herbert isn't going to be able to move the ball, or if they elect to go with the outside zone, they're not going to be able to run. I do think that they'll be able to move the ball. I think it's going to be a close enough game, though, and again, I'm just going to trust that Minnesota defense an ounce more than the Chargers defense. Give me Minnesota plus the points. I'd love to catch this at a potential 3.5 and get that key number, so we'll monitor it and get the best line out there. In terms of a total, I talked a lot about both these quarterbacks looking okay. There are some spots in the run game that may have some potential as well. I know a lot of people are looking at this one being like, wow, this is going to be a messy game. 2 teams, Chargers really banged up. You have Carson Wentz, backup quarterback. I'm actually looking at this one saying, I think the points are going to be scored here. I think that we could see, 27, 24, 20, that type of thing. 24, 21, something like that, which would put us right at the number. I like points in this one. I do like the over, especially if we can snag it at a 44.5. Guys, we're about to jump into the player prop portion of the video, but I wanted to jump in here and just say thank you for all of the support during this NFL season. It's crazy that we're already at week 8, but now we have just started to make the NBA content on the channel. So we're going to be working our you-know-what off, and all I'm asking here is for you guys to hit that like button, subscribe, and then comment grind down below. GRIND, spelling bee champ. Comment that down below. Lets me know that you heard this little sub rant here, because we are going to be working our you-know-what off, and I love doing it. You guys have changed my life, obviously. I'm not one that sits here on a pedestal. I know that it takes 2 to tango. I got the camera, I got the mic, but it takes a human on the other end to make this thing work, and you guys, I'm so thankful for. So go ahead and comment that down below, and yeah, let's get to the player prop portion of the video. My first player prop we're taking a peek at is Keenan Allen. I like his over 49.5 receiving yards, but I really wish we could snag a 4.5 receptions. The problem is right now it's super, super juiced. This is a guy that is 12th in the league in terms of target percentage and target rate when blitzed. We can guarantee one thing in this game. Forget our picks. You can always fade me. You can ride with me, whatever, right? One thing that we can guarantee is Minnesota is going to blitz. I love the idea of Keenan Allen getting those short passes and everything like that. So yeah, 5.5 for plus money in terms of receptions, I don't hate, but I think 4.5 I'd obviously feel a lot more comfortable with. His receiving yards also, like I mentioned, don't necessarily mind. He had a big game last week. Justin Herbert threw for 400 plus yards, so who wouldn't? You could see here Minnesota's pretty good against the wide receiver though, but again, this is much based on the fact that we should see a lot of blitzing. On that same line, Ladd McConkey, he's another guy that I'm looking at in terms of his receptions, 4.5 here. Now, not necessarily against the blitz, that's Keenan Allen's job, but when pressured, Ladd McConkey leads this team in terms of pressure rate, and he ranks pretty damn high in the league as a whole as well, never mind his old team. So I like him over 4.5 receptions, potentially 55.5 receiving yards as well. I think that he's going to be a good guy to take a peek at. On the flip side, on the inverse, Quentin Johnston, their long threat, right? I do think that this is a spot in which we could see him struggle. Would it surprise me if he grabs a couple or anything like that? No, but this is a guy that, is their deep play threat and everything like that. I don't mind the idea of him having somewhat of a rough game. I think Justin Herbert's going to need to get the ball out of his hands pretty quickly. I was hoping to look at his long reception, but honestly, it takes one defensive breakdown, and he's going to be someone that could cash that, right? I mean, look at him this season, averaging 34.17 in terms of his longest reception per game. So I just looked at the receiving yards right now on Caesars. You can get it at 50.5. I don't mind that. 2 straight games in which he has struggled. Minnesota, 7th fewest receiving yards allowed to the opponent. And you can see here using our NFL dashboard, those 3 guys that we just talked about all have a tough matchup, but I like the fact that Ladd McConkey and Keenan Allen have a tough matchup for what we're looking at, right? They should be getting those quick passes. The very tough matchup is something that I'm looking at for QJ here in terms of him having somewhat of a struggling game. Now, moving over to the other side of the ball, Justin Jefferson, over 5.5 catches is something that I would definitely consider here. He is obviously going to get the bulk of the targets, and if they're playing zone, I wouldn't be surprised if he kind of finds a lot of the soft spots. Now, do I like the idea of his receiving yards? I do. Right now, I mean, it's at 79.5. You can see even the last 2 times he didn't hit it, 75 and 79. He was that close, right? Even last week, 10 targets, he only caught 5 of them. I don't mind the idea of him getting 80 yards through the air. But I'm also kind of thinking that Carson Wentz might be spreading the rock a little bit. Jordan Mason might be a factor here if what we said goes according to plan to some degree. So him having 6 catches, isn't crazy. He hit it in 67% of games last year. You could see the targets. He's averaging 8.7 targets per game, but in the last 3, 11, 11, and 10. Why would they stop that? Even with Jordan Addison coming back, it's like Justin Jefferson should still get his, right? Now, we already mentioned him, Jordan Mason. I do like him to score a touchdown. In fact, I like all the guys we've talked about other than QJ to score a touchdown here. The big thing that I want to look at is either Jordan Mason's yards or his longest rush. Let's not forget that I mentioned against the outside zone, which is obviously what we're going to see against the man is what we're going to see out of Minnesota. The Chargers were allowing the 4th most explosive runs in terms of explosive run rate to their opponents this season. So I like the idea of Jordan Mason, longest rush. We don't have that line available at the time of recording, but obviously we will have that in the next day or so. So that's definitely something that I'm considering. But like I always tell you guys, make sure to keep an eye on the pinned comment. That is where you'll find all of my final plays. If we add anything in that we didn't talk about, I'll make sure to give a little blurb or something like that. But that's what we're rolling with. Just to recap here, I do like the Vikes in this spot, but I might like the over a little bit more. We also like Keenan Allen in terms of his receptions and receiving yards, Ladd McConkey in terms of his receptions, QJ's under, Justin Jefferson's over in receptions, and Jordan Mason trying to find a longest rush yard line for him. That's going to wrap it up for this video, guys. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, like I keep asking you and telling you to do, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.